Hello and welcome to Real Men Feel. This is author, coach, and healer Andy Grant. If you want to learn more about me, please visit theandygrant.com. Real Men Feel invites you to redefine what masculinity means in today's world. We remind men that they are human beings and have the right to experience and express all of their emotions. We have conversations that most men are not having, but that all men can benefit from. Now that we're early in spring, often a time of renewal, growth, and ideally flourishing, I know that in my life, I've often had to renew, to prune my life, to weed out the shit in my mind, often, in order to reinvent myself, to be the best man that I can be. My guest today, Teddy Woolsey, took action when his life needed an overhaul and created a system that helped him, and now he uses that in service to others. Teddy is the founder of RBLD Fitness and also works full-time as a tech sales executive. He coaches his clients how to sustainably lose fat, build muscle, and find the balance between hard work and joy in their lives. Welcome to Real Men Feel, Teddy.
It is great to be here, Andy. Thank you very much.
So I love that you focus on joy, because I think that's something that most men don't consciously think of, that they are worthy of joy or that joy belongs in their experience. Have you always known that? Is joy something that was always a part of your life, or what?
It's a weird thing to go through, and almost I was brought up in a religious household where discipline, learning, and really just duty to the world was pressed for good reason. By the way, those are great things to do good to the world, but the personal enjoyment can be suppressed at times in the messaging there. And you can start adopting, as a man in particular, where your value, you're not really born with value in society's eyes. You have to earn it, you have to create it, and which is a false narrative. It's something that we need to overcome, but it's something that a lot of men, including myself, have always felt that I need to create, I have to earn, I have to build in order to be worthy of people's time and attention and respect. So while that has brought me to develop and create and build a lot of great things that I'm very proud of, and I'm really thankful for those qualities and characteristics, it definitely has left me with feelings of anxiety and frustration when I am not doing enough, or I'm not, if I feel like I'm not worthy of somebody in my own eyes. So I made it a conscious thing to really implement things that I find valuable and enjoyable and life-giving in every day and in every week and in every relationship that I have. And if it's not there, I refine the schedule. I refine my relationships on a regular basis to make sure that those negative sources are weeded out, and I am welcoming in new sources of life-giving activities.
Cool. What happened in your life to make you realize that you had to make this conscious effort to change how you were living?
Yeah. When I was about 29, I was approaching 30. I was in a long-term relationship with my ex, and I was working full time. I was sort of directionless in life as to what I wanted to do. I'd even done a podcast once before, and sunset that, and just kind of like, I want to do something fun. I want to feel more fulfilled, but I wasn't quite in shape. I wasn't quite successful. I wasn't quite happy in my relationship. I was just there, the dreaded mediocre. And once I realized that I had a dependency in my relationship for my happiness and all these other factors that weren't really going for me, I had a crisis on my hands when that relationship started to fall apart. And I basically had this moment when I looked in the mirror after a shower, and it was kind of like one of those classic 80s movies where you look in and there's like steamer on the mirror, and you're just like, you like wipe your face clean and you look at yourself and you're thinking like, who are you, man? Like, this is not what you were meant to be, and this is not like what you're capable of. And it was a really sobering moment. And I'm not going to say my life changed right from there. It was a process after the fact, but I basically knew in that moment that I was not satisfied with what I want, or what I have reached in life, because I hadn't created a system of activity and habits that really would contribute to a different life. I mean, my life, the way it looked, was a product of what I did on a daily basis. So I realized I've got to change my schedule. I have to change what I do regularly. And okay, well, how do I do that? And what do I do? There were two main things that really helped me. One was the Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. It was a book basically where you do 7 things. It's called the acronym is SAVERS. You sit in silence or you meditate. You recite affirmations. You V stands for you visualize your future. You exercise. You read, and then you scribe or you write. So I did that, whether it was for 5 minutes or an hour and a half every morning. I did that and basically like added to my self-help bucket every single day. But I chose activities during that period of time that I knew I needed to do the most, which was get my finances in order, get myself in shape, really sort of get my house in order physically as well as financially, spiritually, intellectually, etc. So that those two things really set off a completely new life, and I just followed through on it until my life looked differently, and it was basically 100K in debt, out of shape, depressed, failing relationship, to not even what it was a year and a half later. I was completely out of debt. I was earning 3 times what I was earning before. I was in a new relationship with someone who was just wonderful, and I'm now married to her, and she's the love of my life. We're living in New York City and on 28th floor overlooking Manhattan. It's just a wonderful, amazing life because of this new system that was implemented. And I can get into more detail about what those things are and how to do that in your own life. But I just can't even express enough how important it was to take stock of where I was, take stock of where I wanted to go, and just create a system that was made up of actionable items, real life things that you have to do on a regular basis to actually see change in your life.
Awesome. I love hearing of turnarounds, but that drastic turnaround and frankly, that short of a period of time is quite impressive. So good for you.
Thanks, man.
Prior to that experience, you mentioned adding more to your self-help bucket. Was there a self-help bucket before this?
Definitely. It's not. I've always wanted to. I was not curious, right? I want to get better. I want to be better, but there's sometimes your environment doesn't foster that. Sometimes your circumstances sort of hold you back and you have to make adjustments to that. Or sometimes you just don't want it, right? You don't want it badly enough at that time. Things are comfortable enough that you feel like, hey, I'd rather stay in the comfortable discomfort than pursue something new that could possibly create more problems for me that I don't know. And that I hadn't reached that threshold yet until life sort of forced itself upon me in that way.
Did you realize that your happiness was so dependent on your girlfriend before she ended it?
Absolutely. That was something that I'm sure a lot of men and women for that matter can attest to. When you have a dependent relationship on someone, the good days are great, the bad days are horrible. And it's such a volatile way to live, regardless of whether or not you are with them. So when I realized through a lot of introspection, honest conversations with people I knew I can trust, that I had to make myself better, regardless of whether I was going to stay with her or things were going to not work out, that was the first day of the rest of my life. And obviously we didn't work out, but it was a wonderful, wonderful thing to feel that sense of crisis. Even though I didn't know it at the time, it was honestly like a rebirth moment.
Yeah, I find time and time again, and it can be difficult for men. We have to put ourselves first. We have to be selfish. Like I can't help others until I can help myself. Like I can't love someone else if I don't love myself. So that self-help
100%.
bucket, that self-help bucket helps every aspect of being alive, I find.
Boundaries are extremely healthy for every relationship, especially for your own relationship with yourself. And I never set boundaries for myself, let alone for the relationship, because I was so dependent on not only her, but the other aspects of my life that I couldn't really control for my joy. And it didn't translate well into real life. So what I mean by that is, if I've struggled to express, hey, like, I want this, regardless of whether or not you do. And you can't expect respect, or someone to establish a boundary for you. And then when you lose respect for yourself, it's very difficult to expect someone to have that for you as well. So I was sort of expecting her to establish that for me, to be my source of challenge, my source of joy, my source of X, Y, and Z. And that just, it's not realistic in any particular, any way at all. Man, once, like you said, once I established, like, I need to really double and triple down on my sense of personal accountability, responsibility, boundaries, and the fact that I have internal value, not just by what I do, but because I exist. And if I treated myself the way I treat her value, man, I can go so much farther in any relationship that I'm in, or being by myself as well. And that's just what a lot of us miss.
Yeah. There's one person on the planet responsible for my happiness, and it's me. And when I try to take that from other people, when I refuse to look at why I'm not happy, if I'm not willing to dive in to my own darkness and shadow and all of that, and expect someone else to, like, be so loving of me, so happy in their life that they somehow just pull me out of it, it's the death nail for that relationship, whatever relationship might
Absolutely.
be. Parents, siblings,
Absolutely.
friends. Yeah. Did you realize you were making a system in the moment, or was it just that, the Miracle Morning book is really helping you, and then you wanted to expand on that? Like, how did your system come into play?
Great question. Really great question. The Miracle Morning sort of introduced that idea to me. I was also heavily influenced by Dave Ramsey. Are you familiar with him by any chance?
Yep, I've heard of him. Yeah.
For your listeners, Dave Ramsey is basically a financial guru he's been doing this for about 30, 40 years or now on the radio, but primarily he has a system called the baby steps, and it's to help people get out of debt and create wealth. Now he's expanded into multiple different avenues, but the premise that he created was very, very simple. It was also birthed out of his own desperation, but it's essentially a 7-step process that anybody can follow. And basically all you got to do is identify where you're at on these steps. You might be at step 1, 3, 4, whatever, and continue to follow it. And that's how you get financial health and build wealth and these sorts of things. So I thought, wow, that is a really interesting way to not only assess where you are, huge first step in any rebuild, right? Determine what you need to actually build a plan to fix the problem, and then forecast where these actions are going to lead you. It's that forecasting piece that I think a lot of people forget. All those pieces are really, really important, but it's that forecasting and almost like, it's like gives you hope to know that if I do X, Y, and Z for however long, I can reasonably expect these results. That for me was transformative like nothing else, because anybody can say, listen, if you want to get in shape, you got to eat healthy and you got to exercise more. Well, yes, of course. How long? At what intensity? What can I expect at what rate of change can I expect? When you can actually like map that out for somebody within a reasonable amount of certainty, or give them a range, then it's like, okay, like I have an informed decision I'm making on a daily basis. I actually know that if I save X amount of dollars, I can have this much in my account by the end of the year, or I can, on average returns, I can retire with this much. That's why it's so valuable to have a financial advisor or whatever. I sort of realized that if I put together a daily system where I contribute to my financial budget, I exercise, I eat a certain amount of food with certain macro breakdown, and then I put in X amount of hours at my sales job at the time, I could reasonably expect within a year, 2 years, 3 years to get a certain salary return, my body to look a certain way, and my finances to change as well. Not only that, but I would grow as a person and so on and so forth. That was a bit more ambiguous. But to answer, I have a problem with long-winded answers here, but to answer your question about did I start with the system or did it sort of develop over time? It definitely started with a very simple form, which is that Savers form, that Miracle Morning, but it developed into something that fit my lifestyle. And that's something that I took into the business that I now run for helping my clients get in shape and following those same 3 to 4 steps to not only get the change, but see the change for a long period of time and hold that change.
Cool. So tell me about this, the rebuild fitness philosophy.
Yeah. Rebuild is the way to pronounce it, but it's kind of a double entendre. Is that the way to say it? But the acronym is RBLD, right? It stands for reflect, build, learn, and do. These are the 4 steps that make up the philosophy of my business and the way I really approach anything in general, which is reflect on what it is that you truly want, not what you think that you want, not pie in the sky, not rainbows and butterflies, but okay, instead of me saying I want to look like Zac Efron, maybe it's I'm looking to like lose 20, 30 pounds. I'd like, my chest to stick out further than my stomach. And, I'd love to be able to get up the stairs without being winded or something like that. What's the base, the bare minimum that threshold I have to pass for me to be happy? Really, truly reflect on that. Do not take it lightly. And then once we have that outcome that we're seeking, that we can not only get to, but sustain, we will reverse engineer. That's the second part, which is the build or building of a plan. I can't tell you enough how important this is. Anybody who's listening, this is the step that people skip. But they might have a program they're following for 2 months, 3 months, even 6 months. But very rarely do we have a contingency plan. People lose weight all the time. The stats are staggering. Most people that set out to lose weight, about 10% or more of their body weight, they are successful in doing so. But 4 out of 5 individuals over the course of 5 years will regain that weight or gain even more than what they lost. Why is that? It's not because we don't know how to lose weight. We don't know how to adjust our lifestyle after the fact. We don't know how to sustain a lifestyle of a thinner person or someone who looks and feels and acts that way sustainably. So what we do is we try to go too fast. We prioritize speed over sustainability. And that's just really not congruent with how weight gain typically happens. For instance, is we typically gain weight very slowly over the course of many months and years. We're talking a caloric surplus per day, maybe 25, 50 calories, which is very, it's infinitesimally small. But that adds up over the course of many years when our metabolism flows and that sort of thing. If we were to approach it in a reverse fashion and looked at what are the 1 or 2 things that I can implement into my week that is not too painful from a diet perspective, from an exercise perspective, and just moving a little bit more, eating a little bit better, that I can still be happy. I can still have cake. I can still have pizza. I can still lounge around, play my PS5 behind me, and so on and so forth. But hey, it's keeping me in the physical range that I feel well. I feel healthy. I feel proud of myself. It's a lot simpler to build that plan out for years to come than to bank all of your success on a Biggest Loser challenge for 90 days and have 0 plans afterwards. And then, by the way, you're probably inevitably going to fall back into your old habits because you have no contingency plan. So we build out a plan for a lifetime, not just for that small period. And then the final 2 pieces are very, very short. Learn is, you ever heard the phrase, somebody says it's easier to learn while you're doing the activity that you're learning about? That's the premise. We just teach the fundamentals while you're actually exercising and dieting, and in real time. When you have questions or concerns, we'll educate you in that. But we also have modules, and we have articles, and we have all types of knowledge sources that will help you learn the fundamentals. And I mean, you can do whatever you want with that, but you need to know at the very least how fat loss works, how muscle growth works, basic nutrition, and that will be your springboard into how far you want to go into that path. And then, of course, the final piece is D for do. That is just executing. There's a whole science behind that and how to stay the course, so to speak. But that makes up the RBLD or Rebuild Fitness approach. And hope that answers your question.
Oh, yeah, it does. I'm going to go start with the start and talk about reflecting a little bit more, because I know when I've been depressed, a long-term goal is just, it's just beyond my thinking. And I've
Yeah.
met lots of men like, I can't, I don't, it's almost like the excuse, oh, I can't start because I don't really know what I want yet. So do you have any tips for someone to get clarity on what it is they actually want?
Oh man, that is such a tough one, right? It's and you put it so beautifully of like, man, how do I forecast this? How do I even know what to know, or what do I think to think about? For me, one of the best phrases I've ever heard is the purpose of life is to live life with purpose, even if you don't know what it is yet. Take something that is constructive and good and test that out. Something that even if you don't even love it, it's going to improve your life. So I think honestly, personal finances, if they're not in the best shape right now, that's something that you can just embrace, and that will not only improve your circumstances from like a well-being perspective, but it'll also give you confidence that you can implement discipline, you can plan ahead, you can see something through, and build trust within yourself that you're going to follow it. That's one thing in particular. Physical fitness has, it's not just about aesthetics. Like that's a great thing. I love looking great and feeling confident and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. But there are tremendous mental health ramifications on a positive perspective that regular exercise does for us. From an endorphins perspective, there's something called myokines that's in our skeletal muscle, or AKA our lean muscle mass in our bodies, that when we contract and release our muscles, that myokines go into our bloodstream, up to our brain, and they help us to regulate our mood. They fight depression. And research, meta-analysis has shown time and time again that people with regular exercise sometimes they fight depression, clinical depression, and even chronic illnesses much better than medication and or counseling. Nothing against medication or counseling. I think everything done in tandem or as a holistic approach is even better. But the fact of the matter is that should not be ignored, and that should be something every single person does in their life. And that's something you can tackle right now to build confidence, improve your life. And then, by the way, build a foundation that now you can tackle the next thing. Somebody called it a keystone habit. Getting in shape is a keystone habit that's simple enough to work. You can set a goal, like you want to run a marathon, you want to bench 300 pounds or whatever it is. Maybe let's just say 200 pounds, whatever. The cool thing about setting a simple goal that is far enough into the future that yet takes some time, but short enough that you can actually achieve it, is that your other habits, like your eating, what you digest as far as information, the influences that you allow into your life, they sort of fall in line with that keystone habit. And you sort of are able to, like, almost like a snowplow, kind of like push the excess out from you. You collect the good and you push out the bad. So to your question, I would absolutely recommend starting with one of those two things, and or reading / audiobooks, podcasts about self-help like Andy's, etc. I can't stress to you enough how important it is to change your schedule and change your influences immediately. That will spark a revolution within yourself, even if you don't know what the outcome of that revolution is going to be.
Cool. Love that. Teddy, you've mentioned purpose and reinvention and responsibility, and I think we're all in an effort to be better. So what does being a good man mean to you?
Yeah. There's two sides of that coin. I think, man, every person has inherent value that needs to be embraced. But I think that men really struggle with that concept because of what we're taught, because of how we feel naturally, and a number of factors. Rarely do I think anything is one way or the other completely. We have an inherent desire to build and produce and protect and be responsible for something, and that gives us tremendous pride. So being a good man, I think, is embracing those things wholeheartedly. Embrace whatever you're responsible for, whether it's your life, your family's life, your coworker's life, your friend's life, your parents, whatever. Embrace that. Do the right thing. Work as hard as you can within reason. Don't kill yourself, of course. But also understand that if you fall short, if you can't do your best every day, or you can't you can't reach an outcome that you had in mind by the time that you wanted, that doesn't mean that you're a bad man. It means that you did your best. I'm a huge Stoic philosopher. I'm huge about the basic premise of do the best you can with what you have when you have it. Life really boils down to that. So I think that's what being a good person is, but especially a good man, in that single statement, if I could simplify it in that way.
A lot of people say just do your best, be the best, and they take away all the other, like our best fluctuates based on the moment, based on our resources, based on our food and our sleep and all sorts of things. But yeah, but always strive to do your best, but realize your best will have fluctuations to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Believe me, I'm not, one of my favorite like thought experiments is, let's take me 5 years ago. I'm still me. I'm still Teddy. I've been Teddy this whole time, but in a lot of ways I was unrecognizable. That version of me was unrecognizable from this version of me. I had a lot of commonalities, but I thought different things. I said different things. I did different things, and that's okay. I'm still me. I was always me, and I should always be loved along the way. I should always be appreciated, and I should be able to be vulnerable. And I'm just as worthy of good relationships and good opportunities and the like as I am today. Even though I put together a better system, we have to understand that we often look down on men in our society who aren't achieving, who aren't confident even, or who sometimes make bad decisions or whatever it may be. And we look at them as bad people inherently. We treat them as bad people inherently. But the fact of the matter is, many of us, if not most of us, have been some version of that person in that moment. Sometimes worse. We need, as men in particular, we need to stand up for each other and, of course, challenge one another to be our best. And, of course, challenge one another to be honest and open and vulnerable. And, of course, do all of these things. Hey, like, let's hold ourselves to the highest standard. But we also have to challenge others in those moments where we're not giving men a break. That is why many of us are so tightly wound, why we act the way we do. And studies have shown that men and women, we show aggression almost at the same rates. We just show it differently. If men have an outlet socially, like many women do, and the women are really good at this compared to us, my goodness, what a better world we could live in that way. So the work that you do, Andy, honestly, is really incredibly important. Particularly in the men's mental health space, and so on and so forth, and how that translates to physical health as well. So you enable people like myself to sort of even get to the conversations of men who are like, listen, I've been on an emotional journey to improve my life. I used to never even think about this kind of stuff. I just went to work and came home and paid the bills, and I thought that was enough, and that's what it meant to be a man. But it means much more to be a man. And then once they are able to sort of accept that, they can begin to invest in themselves financially, physically, and that's when they come to me. So I really want to thank you on the front end for all the work that you do there in that space.
Awesome. We began the introduction and mentioned joy. So I want to know today, what brings Teddy joy?
Oh gosh, what doesn't? I'm just a happy dude, man. I really love life in general. I love I love learning a new concept and kind of synthesizing it down into something that's like digestible, right? So fitness is one of those things. That's just one thing. But I love like behavioral science or like habit science. That stuff's really cool. I love like Neil deGrasse Tyson, the way he like breaks down astrophysics and like the way we see the world. So like I'm very curious in that way. So like all new information is really cool. I love true crime documentaries. I love them so much. They're just so fascinating to me, and it's my wife and my favorite pastime. I love playing pickup game of basketball or football with my friends. I love playing Madden with my friends on PS5. I love going to the city and grabbing a drink and a piano bar out here with my wife and taking my dog on the subway and going to Central Park. I love the feeling after a good workout. I love closing a deal. There's so many things that bring me joy, but I'd say, like I said before, it was because I took the time to invest in learning what the world had to offer, like listening to well thought out words and reading articles and books and, listening to podcasts that challenged my mind, that I was able to sort of take from one podcast information and tie it to another, and then tie it to that. My network of thought is so much more sophisticated and balanced than it once was, because I followed that natural curiosity that we all have instead of suppressing it. And now I'm able to find joy in so many other things and conversations with people of all different perspectives and knowledge bases, etc. Bases, I think it's a word, etc. Because I followed that path. So I guess lots of things bring me joy, but the reason being is because I was never afraid to follow a path of thought non-judgmentally, and that allows me to connect with more things and people freely, without fear.
I wonder, do you have a mistake that you can see as your favorite mistake because of the lesson you got from it?
Oh my. Definitely ties back to the last relationship I was in. I call this this concept. I had a lack of diversity of importance in my life. I was honed in on a relationship to bring me the vast majority of my joy. A lot of people have that relationship with food or with work, or maybe again with their significant other or friends. A lot of people are all about being a parent, and that's like majority of their joy. Doing that was my biggest mistake, because I just invested in myself and my other relationships and the things that brought me mental, physical, and financial health far too little comparatively. Everything I did was oriented towards this one thing, a person. So when that failed and I realized, all right, man, you got to do something now, because, chances, like, you can't be in this situation again. Your standard of living can't be like this again. That was my biggest failure. I would never change it, because it woke me up. But that was the moment or the thing that definitely changed me.
Is there one thing that's top of mind that you wish more men knew?
I wish more men knew that what they thought about themselves is far more important than what anyone else can give you. My dad said something very beautifully on an old podcast that I had when I asked him a very similar question. And he said, if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I would tell him, you have worth, you have value, you are loved, and you have every reason to go out and build the best life that you possibly can compared to anybody else. There's no reason that you should hold yourself back. And that was something that he struggled with for his whole life, because of a lot of his circumstances, the things that has happened to him, and a lot of self-talk that was destructive over the years. I would echo that sentiment that my dad had, because it's about as true as anything.
Awesome. Hitty, you are such an explosively joyous learning machine and of service, and it's your energy is really infectious. I love it. What's the best way for people to connect with you, to learn more about everything that you're up to?
Yeah, thanks, man. Instagram's probably the central hub that I am the most active on social media. So that would be at Ted Woolsey, TEDWOOLSEY. I'm sure you'll put that in the show notes, so you guys can look that up. But I also have a website where I write articles, and that's going to be on all types of things, fitness, diet, and behavioral oriented. But yeah, my Instagram is going to be a great central hub where you can see more of like my thoughts on living a healthy life physically, how that translates to mental health, how that translates to a meaningful life, and so on and so forth. But I just love connecting with people, seeing them, how they live out their lives, and just kind of interacting organically with the folks that ideally are learning a little bit something from me. I want to do the same with them.
Awesome. Thanks, Ted, for being here. Thanks for for taking part in your transformation and then sharing it with the world, because that's what just makes it infinitely more powerful.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate all the work that you do, man. And I'm already adding myself to the Facebook group. I look forward to interacting further, and it's just an honor to be on the show.
Beautiful, beautiful. Great to hear it. So again, thanks, Teddy. Thanks everyone for listening and tuning in. Wherever you're discovering Real Men Feel, please give us a like, a subscribe, a share. Visit realmenfeel.org and see the blog posts for this episode. Get all the links to all the various books and tools that were mentioned. You can always reach out to me at realmenfeel@gmail.com. Always glad to hear from you. And as Teddy mentioned, if you're not in the Real Men Feel private Facebook group yet, the heck you waiting for? Just go to realmenfeel.org/group, and that'll pop you right over to Facebook, and you can join up in the conversation. And until next time, I want to quote Teddy's dad: "You have worth, you have value, and you are loved." Please know that. Please live that.